faith, man. Full faith.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scottish Silverback podcast. And I'm proud to announce that we're joined today by Jamie Christian, IFBB Pro, and some man to have on as the first guest of the podcast. And I was going to say to Greg that I think we've actually got a real Silverback on this week, so it's going to be the English Silverback and the two Scottish Chimps podcast this week.
Hey boys, you still got more thickness. I'll give you that one. So there you go. I can. I've got the width, I've got the frame, but I'm still trying to get the thickness.
So like I said earlier, I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll just kick off the chat with everything. So just we'll kick it off with how you're doing just now.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously from me, I appreciate you having me on. Pleasure to, as I said before we went live, it's nice to discuss in length some things because it's very short chats on Instagram, and when we see each other at shows, it's very brief. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a good one, just having the chat in general and speaking to each other about how we're getting on. But yeah, you introduced me, obviously, Jamie Christian Joel. The last name, a bit hard to pronounce, so some people, I just call myself Jamie Christian now anyway, much easier. But yeah, turned professional in 2018 after competing from 2009. So I've been competing a fair time. I think realised, I don't want to give you like a long, in-depth intro. So if you want to know anything else, just ask. But I'll try and give you like the short story so people don't get bored. But I really realised in 2015, so a good 6 years after my first contest, that I wanted to do this more than just a hobby and see myself as probably being professional one day. And that was when I won the British finals as super heavyweight. I think you both probably know that I started off my career as a classic bodybuilder, the height and weight class in the UK BFF at 200, 210 pounds. And I think when I won the British super heavies, I was about 260. So a good 50, 60 pound heavier than when I started, and won my pro card in 2018. So it took me another 3 years. But that's largely because in 2017 I bought my gym. I didn't compete that year because I was working like 80 hours a week, and it just wasn't. I just knew that I wouldn't bring my best this stage, so I decided to have the year off. And then 2018 I won my IFBB Pro card at 285, so another 25 pounds heavier, and from the start 85 pounds up. So yeah, in what's that, 9 years, 85, 90 pound difference. Not too bad. Not too shabby.
That's not too shabby. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Do you feel, obviously, with that much gain, because obviously you're a taller bodybuilder, do you feel it's more visibly noticeable, or do you think just because of that weight, it just takes a lot of time to actually see what's going on, even though it's a large chunk of weight going on your frame?
I think it just takes longer, like you say. I think it's definitely more visible in the end, but along the way, it was like, fucking, I put 20 pounds on here, and where's it gone? I can't see it.
Yeah.
So it took longer for sure, but I think now I'm getting to that point where people can see that the extra mass is definitely making an impact with the height. Like obviously when I competed last year as a pro, I'd come out and I was visually and visibly different to when I got my pro card in 18. And I know when I come out this year, although I had a short off season, I know I'll be better because my pictures are already looking better when you kind of compare them to previous preps.
Yeah, I was in the crowd when you won in 2015 because I thought that was my last year as a junior, and I remember seeing you because obviously, like, Greg's already competed as a super heavy, but I knew eventually super heavy was where I was going to end up. So obviously, you guys were a big influence on that, and I remember seeing yourself and just thinking like, how can he possibly put more size in that frame? And that was in 2015. And then obviously you got your pro card, and then from 18 to now, I was just like, that's insane how you've managed to just kind of add that level of mass to a frame that's already got that level of mass. So
it's funny, isn't it, when you look at yourself? Because I remember thinking back when I was just starting out in bodybuilding, I thought, I'm quite a big lad, and then look back at pictures and think, what the fuck was I thinking?
Until you start meeting the big lads and you actually realise, like, holy shit, I need to be bigger.
15, I remember looking at some of those photos and thinking, man, I look like a swimmer. I need to put a lot more size on. And if you remember 2018, I'm sure my initial plan, Andy, was to compete at the Saxon Classic that year, and that would have been against yourself.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay, now thank God you didn't.
Oh, you know, it was one of those things. You were the type of physique at the time that I was getting beat by. You know, I know you're not particularly short, but a shorter physique with more thickness, like a top end heavy but super heavy weight category. Because I didn't quite have the thickness in the hamstring and depth in the back, I was getting beat by those guys, and luckily wrapped it up in the end, and I've improved. I think if I was to take my physique where it is now back to those 2018 shows, I perhaps would have won the overall a few times.
I completely forgot about that, mate. I remember Nick Vandal at the time who I was working with. He was like, obviously we knew you were going to be competing, and I was like, what do you think we should do? And he was like, fuck it, it'll be a good show. Like it'll be a great physique to stand next to. And I was like, you know, I actually would. So I can't believe I forgot about that. But yeah, that'd have been class. Yeah. It'd have been a good photo of that one. So
I'm sure we'll all get to do it again someday.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think obviously, like I've seen the photos of when you were, well, when you won your pro card, obviously 2018 as well. But looking at when you first stood on stage at the Alicante in 2020, it was like mind-boggling, the size difference. And like I think like your front lat spread must be one of the best front lat spreads in the world right now. So I think when you hit that on stage, it really turned a lot of heads to yourself and probably put your name out there. Like folk were like, wow, fucking size this guy, and that lat spread was a bit of a taken back by a lot of people. I think you've really done like massive improvements in those 2 years you were away.
Yeah, you know, I owe a lot to Jordan, really. I know you're obviously working with him yourself, Greg, at the minute, and I think when you're working with someone that is so, what's the word, devoted to what they do, and so clinical with that precision towards executing not just training but dieting and every aspect, you really don't want to check in and say that you fucked up that week. So from May 2019, I have been like the best bodybuilder that I've ever been since that day. You know, that's why the progress is there. It's interesting because the jump in weight isn't as drastic as it has been for previous years, but I've seen a difference in like how a muscle looks, the muscle maturity, the thickness, the denseness of the appearance on stage is clearly different. And I can only put that down to the training style as well. I was always one of these that trained more days a week than not. Kind of went from exercise to exercise, no plan going into the session, just what I felt like doing that day, and no real run on a particular exercise to see how strong I could get. It was like, well, I might see how many dumbbells I could pick today. And then I would touch them again for another 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing that that changed in my first big off season. So when I came out of the juniors, that was the same as me. Like, I was like, I was looking at guys like yourself and JP and you know, hammering at like the whole logbook like style of training and stuff, and that was a big turning point for me as well. I was the same. I was like, fuck it, I'll do this today, I'll do that today, I'll do 30 sets, I'll do 50 sets, I'll copy Jay Cutler's leg workout today. Like it was one of those. So it just shows you like just the more and more if more people just treated it as if they're trying to be meticulous as possible, and just imagining that they're already an IFBB Pro and trying to make those steps, I think a lot of guys would be taking bigger strides towards their physique. So
definitely.
What?
When you go.
No, I was going to say we've got questions ready to go from ourselves. So, will I kick off, or what do you want to do?
I'll kick off.
Cool.
What's your OnlyFans?
the giantschnitzel.com.
This is what I laugh out for, but
in the DMs.
You come across as a very humble and genuine person, and seem very focused in different sport. Was there a point? Have you always been like that, or do you feel that there was a point in your career over this like 9 to 12 year period that like it changed that for you?
It's very, you know, thinking back, when I decided that I really enjoyed seeing progression in my own physique, it's probably the point where I made the decision between playing football and doing the gym at the same time, realizing how kind of that was holding me back, because obviously it's very exerting and just burning off the muscle that I was trying to put on. And obviously being a big guy as well, having to eat just extreme amounts of foods and not really understanding nutrition at that point anyway, so just wasn't making any progress. But that was probably around 2010 that I would say I was full-time bodybuilding and no other sports. At that time as well, so in 2010 I would have been, trying to work out how old I was, 25. Obviously at that time, still a young, socially active guy going out drinking, wasn't in a stable relationship, so that was all over the place as well. But I distinctly remember when I started competing in 2011, 12 properly with the UKBFF, I was the first one from my group of friends that was like, guys, I'm not going out anymore. I probably go out once every 4 to 6 months, and that was a massive change because I was going out every weekend.
Yeah.
I remember you basically, as many young people do, saving money for the weekend to go out and blow it all on drink and whatever else. Yeah. So I think from an early age, and I was a bit of a late start because some people might have done this even earlier, but I was a bit of a late start with bodybuilding anyway. But I definitely had a mentality from around 25 that I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket here. I know that to progress, especially with my frame, I need to really focus on this 100%. And anything that didn't really go into that positively, I didn't want to know. So I started to disassociate myself with friends that didn't really bring any positive things towards to the table, family members. I just started devoting my time towards bodybuilding and people that kind of offered something positively towards that as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that was kind of a mindset I had from a younger age. And then I found that any job that I did, it had to fit around bodybuilding. Like, you know yourselves, being able to eat my meals, being able to train. And they wasn't always perfect, so I'd always have to find ways to do it, but I always made it work. And then I remember in the fire service, that's when I really got into it. That's when I won the British Championships. That's where I really decided that I wanted to get my pro card and be a professional. I remember saying time and time again to my manager when he had me in the office again for not performing and not taking it seriously enough and concentrating too much on my bodybuilding. I remember saying, Simon, is my manager's name, someday you will have to accept that I'm a full-time bodybuilder and a part-time fireman.
They fucking love that.
And that's the attitude I had. I remember going to a house fire, the whole kitchen was burnt down, but because I'd been called out and I didn't have a meal with me, I remember looking through the cupboards, see if I could find any food in this burnt kitchen. And there's a tub of peanut butter. I'm like, yes.
That's
new level of devotion.
Yeah. I think the mindset did start young, but I think in terms of business, that's developed from 2015. And I think one of the biggest things I try and tell people, and you can see on my social media, is just be yourself and be honest. I always try and be honest about things, and I think people really do appreciate that. So yeah, I'm glad that kind of comes across as well.
Yeah, it's actually funny. Like, that story is almost word for word like me in a sense. Like, everything. Obviously, I didn't really start early on. I mean, I'm 32, trying to get my pro card now. So I think you were 32 when you won yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So around about the same. But I mean, like, the jobs I've had, even though I had to turn up to pay the bills, everything, I was like, the gym was my focus. Like, I couldn't wait to finish work, go to the gym. I had to eat my meals at a certain time. I remember sitting in the toilets because I wasn't allowed to break. I was sitting in the toilets with like my feet up on the actual toilet, having a meal before I could go back to work. And, like, folk were wondering where it was. But I mean, I had to get my meal in and stuff like that. So it's pretty much like almost word for word what I've went through for the years. It's quite funny.
That's a big party boy as well.
Yeah. That's why I think it's hard for us to understand, because we've all got clients. It's hard for us to understand when people say, I don't get time to eat at work, or my boss won't let me do this, because we've been there, but we've made it work. So it's like, well, you fucking can sort your shit out.
I know. 100%.
I feel like if you want it, then you're going to do whatever you can to make it happen. But like, if it's the work's more a priority than whatever aspects, like say going to the gym, then the work's going to be a priority. But I mean, the gym and me growing and developing was my main priority. No matter the work, even though it was paying my bills, that was what I thought about all the time. So I was getting that meal in regardless. They could have sacked me, I was still went and had the meal.
I remember going to a job once. I was in the back of the truck, getting the breathing apparatus on, and every time I like get one strap on, mouthful of food, get the other strap on, mouthful of food. And then putting a mouthful of food in, chewing it, putting a mask on, I was like, shit, I can't breathe, I can't chew, I can't get the mask on, finish the food. Yeah,
that's next level. That's next level. Saving lives while getting a meal in.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one of my questions was actually about you being in the fire service, so I'll cut to that one. So you brought up. Obviously, we know that kind of job is what you just explained. Obviously, how demanding it is, and I've been fortunate enough to train a few firemen, a few police officers, and that. And you know, it's very much a job that kind of molds you, and it can change you. And I was just wondering if that had any kind of influence on your life in general, just being a fireman and being in those kind of situations, because we all know, like, I've trained a police officer who obviously like came out of some situations with PTSD and things like that. So it's I'm just wondering if, like, how do you feel that kind of job like molded you as a person, or do you feel it was just kind of an easy fit for you?
I think it was an easy fit for bodybuilding, because the shift pattern lent itself very well to training. I was working 4 days on, 4 days off. It was 2 day shifts, 2 night shifts, and 4 complete days off. So really, in 8 days, I was only ever working 2 days. And then you had annual leave on top of that as well. And you got to sleep on nights. So if there was ever a perfect job for bodybuilding, that was it. So in terms of molding me as a person, it just really molded me as a bodybuilder.
Right. Okay.
And like you said, you get done what needs to be done. So when we got time to train at work, I'd train at work, but the gym wasn't really good enough there, so I'd go and train after work as well. My sleeping quarters were like downstairs in the fire station. The gym was upstairs, but someone used to sleep in the gym, so I couldn't go in the gym in the morning and use the cardio equipment. So I used to wheel the bike into the lift, take the bike downstairs, wheel it into my sleeping quarters, and I used to hop on the bike in the morning. Well, that was when I had the brainwave to fucking do that. Before that, there's a couple of flights of stairs in the building, so I used to run up and down the stairs for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like a homemade stairmaster.
Yeah. Anything to get it done.
Yeah.
Take the bike down the pole.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't in a really busy station, so I didn't see a load of, stuff that would be in my mind, like bad memories wise. Did go to a few decent jobs, but it was a nice experience. But at the end of the day, you know as well as I do, when you've got your head focused on doing something so much, you don't give your time and effort to that job it deserves.
Yeah.
I was just waiting to get out for 6 years. I was in there 7, so that was it. Never looked back.
I'll grab the next one. Obviously, you're very out there. Like, obviously, you speak quite a lot on the days on your stories. You have to put a lot of content for Jordan. You put a lot of content yourself on YouTube, on Instagram, stuff like that. Have you always been that person who can easily do that, or is it something you really have to force yourself into to realise, obviously, there's going to be a life outside of bodybuilding. I need to grow it into a business. I need to make different avenues of money, all this kind of sorts.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I think I've always had, let me just tell my dogs to shut a minute. Dogs! 2 French bulldogs going crazy down here. I don't know if you can hear it. They've been asleep for hours, and then you start the podcast, they start fucking trying to shag each other. Wait. I've always been inspired and admired people who had this business mindset. So I've always looked at people like Flex Lewis, Jay Cutler, even Regan, because they're not great bodybuilders, but they're great businessmen as well. I know that bodybuilding, and I knew this for a long time, it's never going to be a long career where you work till you're 60.
No.
So it's very important for us to do as much as we possibly can. And if you remember 2015, when I won the British title, I'd already, as an amateur at that stage in my career, before I even considered winning that title, I didn't know I was going to win. I already started calling myself Giant, at the time, Giant Joe Hal. Because I'd already recognised the importance and the value of making yourself a brand.
Yeah.
So Giant Joe Hal at that time stuck. And then it was only because Joe Hal is the name of my stepfather that is no longer with my mother. I was like, I kind of need to get away from this Joe Hal. So I started calling myself AK the Giant. But I don't think that was until probably 2016. So yeah, business-wise, I've always valued and understood the value of making a brand for yourself. Because when we leave the stage, we need something to fall back on. Now, obviously, coaching is going to always be there for us, because I think that's something that with more experience, you only offer more value to people.
Yeah.
But if we can earn income on the side from YouTube, from clothing, from anything else, and obviously if we're doing those things, we offer more value to a sponsor as well. So that's another stream of income that we can tap into.
Yeah.
I did recognise that early on, and I think it is a full-time job in itself. I actually said on one of my stories, people think that we have the life of Riley. We have as much time on our hands and we can do whatever we want. And yeah, I admit through lockdown, I've been playing a bit too much of the PS5, but I'm still doing my stories every day. I've not done as many YouTubes. I'm going to start them back up. Now we can actually do something, because it's just been boring, to be fair, doing training video after training video. People want lifestyle stuff. They want to see eating and doing shit around what normal people do, but obviously us bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So that will start going again.
I find the social media side quite hard. I find myself really having to force myself to do stuff like even stories, mate. Like that's for me, that's a task in itself, because I think I still to this day have this mindset of like there's been 1,000 other guys that have just posted the exact same thing. They posted the exact same information. What's the point in me doing it, essentially? And I just I still kind of feel that what's the point in saying my opinion about this when someone's already said that, you know what I mean? And so I don't know about you, Greg, but I find the social media side quite hard to get myself in. I think I was in a good momentum of doing it. I think it would be a lot easier. That's why one of the reasons why I think we started doing this, because we said, right, Sunday, we're going to do this, just chat away and just get some conversation flowing. But, and then I'm trying to get the YouTube training videos and all that up as well. It's just, I feel it's not really me, social media. If I wasn't a bodybuilder, I don't think I'd have it. So, but yeah, you're right in the sense that you do need to build that brand. And I mean, that's why my Instagram name's AMS Muscle, not Andy Scott, because Andy Scott's a common name. It's boring, and you know, it's just AMS Muscle just sounds a wee bit better. So, but yeah, like you said, you do have to hone. I think if it comes naturally to some people, and I think people need to realize that you know, not everyone's got that kind of social media type cliquey personality, and it does take work, and it does take just as much effort as maybe your training, your nutrition, just to get that brand built and that social media machine working.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think even just like, obviously you walk down the street holding your phone, like speaking away, like for me, if somebody looks at me, I'm like, fucking like a fanny. But I mean, you must have done it so many times, you just feel very comfortable doing it now. It's like people watch these stories all the time. You must just think that, but like just to get going and go and do it would be quite a challenge for me. So I just like, nah, I'm not doing it.
You're the kind of guy
you need to do.
You're the kind of guy, Greg, that drives past and says, "Look at that dickhead." And I know there's loads of people that do that, but it's just I'm doing my thing, so I think you get what you think. I was always
it's something I wish I could do.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like what type of person, like Andy says, I was the class clown at school. I did drama, and I was quite extrovert and, you know, one of the louder people. So it's probably just rolled over naturally from that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's I mean, I have done it, and I've spoke, like, I've done videos and stuff like that, but it's just the getting going. Once I'm like, honestly, a few words in a sentence, it's like, boom, I'm away. I can speak forever, like just what we're doing now. But it's the fact of just going is like a massive hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people will be the same.
I bet you both notice that if you are more active, you get more inquiries, more clients.
Oh yeah, yeah,
more money. So
yeah, I mean, anybody who's out there.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys? This is one thing that I was thinking about earlier. Do you have income goals or goals of how much money you want to earn? Because I've heard a lot of bodybuilders that say, I'm not really interested in money. Like, money doesn't offer any value to me. But I kind of disagree, because without money, you can't buy anything.
I don't understand that mentality. I don't personally. That's like, I didn't grow up poor. I had a good upbringing, but you know, we didn't have a luxurious lifestyle. We didn't go on holidays and stuff like that. So now that I am earning money, like, I want my life to be even better and be able to buy things and be able to go on big holidays and stuff, and put more into bodybuilding, invest in the bodybuilding. So yeah, I mean, like, of course I want to earn more money. I think it's definitely up here anyway. There's like almost I think like people are looked down upon if you succeed or you want to earn more money. Like it's a bad thing. Like, you know, I'll admit I'm very money driven. But at the same time, like, I put a lot of pride into, like you said, your brand, and I put a lot of pride into my coaching and things like that. So it's, I don't understand why, you know, people say they're not influenced by money. I think that's just total shite. I think they're just trying to sound like they're trying to make themselves out to be better people.
Yeah,
I personally think that's what I think. But
see right through it.
Exactly.
Me, I'll be honest. Like, I had quite a good upbringing. My dad had a very good job, pretty good money, so, you know, like, a lot of nice holidays. I was never like needing anything. I always got what I wanted. So I was very lucky in that sense. But it never made me like hungry for money in that way. I just, like, obviously I wanted to have a nice life. I didn't want to be poor or struggle for things. But I mean, I think it's like where you are in your life. But now, obviously, I've got 2 kids, a wife. Like, you want to give them a good life. You want to have a nice home. You want to have nice cars in the drive. You want to go on a holiday. Not have them want for anything. Always have food on the table, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, now it kind of puts a bigger like spin on it. You need to go out there more. You need to try and come new avenues of taking money and just all that stuff. So I think it's really where you are in your life. Like, if I was in my 20s, I had no ambition to be rich. I just wanted to be remembered for something or do something good in that way. But now, like, obviously it kind of changes.
Yeah. I think I sound like a dick saying what I said.
No.
I'm fucking just money. Fuck people who don't like money. Fuck them.
As I said, like, I think it really depends where you are in your life. Like, now I've got a much bigger need to have it, because I want to have it for them. Whereas, like, before, as myself, I was just happy if I had everything I needed. I didn't want more, but now I do.
I think what scares me as well, because, you know, if you do think about this, it is quite scary that we're doing what we love now, earning a living, doing what we love.
Mm-hmm.
How many bodybuilders you know that just like kind of slipped off the face of the earth and you don't hear anything from them, and they're probably working a normal 9-to-5 job, earning a normal wage. Could have the potential to do what we're doing and perhaps earn a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
So we don't want to.
For me, when you look at those guys, like, you look at the guys in the 90s, and they've all kind of done the same thing. And I'm thinking, like, clearly they can't all be rich from doing the same thing. Like, they've all made a supplement brand or they've made clothes. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Like, all the guys in the 90s, like, they've kind of gone now. You see the expos, it's like they've just got a supplement brand. It's like you never actually see it for sale or anything, but they must make money from it, obviously.
Yeah.
I see we've all done the same avenue.
Maybe they got like weed a fund somewhere.
So some illicit funds.
Yeah.
So one of my questions was, obviously one of the big chats in British bodybuilding just now is Jordan's decision to kind of pull back and to pull away from obviously his gear use essentially. Yeah. And I think it's obviously a very positive thing. I think basically what I'm trying to lead on to my question is that, do you think there's a point where some people should maybe reflect on what they're doing and the actions they're taking in bodybuilding? It doesn't have to be drugs, obviously. It could be anything to do with the bodybuilding journey and that. And do you think people should just sit back a wee bit and reflect if this is actually truly worth putting their body through?
I think so, 100%. I don't think many people are fortunate enough to be in Jordan's position. Obviously, he's got there from working fucking hard and having the mindset and foresight to make that website when he did, as early as he did. And then obviously that's led on to other things. But he's had the foresight as well. And what's the best way to say? He was under a hell of a lot of pressure to keep looking how he looks and performing how he performs. The amount of pressure on him to compete and get his pro card, I imagine it was just insane, because he's built this profile for himself. So having that amount of pressure and then probably going against what everyone else thinks and make that decision, that's massive. And I don't think many other people can be under that much pressure and have the same decision to make, so it shouldn't be as hard. But I had a little Instagram live on Saturday yesterday. One of the things I discussed was whether I thought mental health was improved or made worse by kind of competitive bodybuilding and extreme bodybuilding and drug use. And I think for most people, because what you hear all the time is we need to get back in the gym because it's good for mental health. But I think people get that a bit skewed. I think general fitness is great for mental health. But I think for a lot of people, when they go down this avenue of competing and then become extreme bodybuilders, extreme drug users, then there's a lot of people that can't handle it.
Yeah.
I think if you're one of those that are pumping so many grams of drugs each cycle, very rarely coming off. If you are coming off, you're on a cruise, so you're not really coming off. And really hammering what we need to do to be bodybuilders. But you're working a 9 to 5, you got no savings, you're literally spending all your last penny of income on bodybuilding, supplements, gear, gym, and you've got a missus and kids at home who are going without. I think there's a lot of people like that in today's society that are chasing, and I definitely think that they should look at themselves and think, perhaps I don't need to do it at this level. Maybe I should just try and have a good physique. And I know that's easy for us to say, sitting here, but I think surely there's a level or a point you get to and you know whether you can pursue this or not, and you're going to make something from it.
I'm sure you've met.
We're all lucky enough, we're kind of there.
I'm sure you've met many people, or maybe coached many people, like I'm sure me and Andy have as well, who genuinely see themselves in a light that we don't see, or like others don't see, but they genuinely have themselves on such a high pedestal, thinking they could be great. They're probably the people that actually would do that and believe in something. It's just not there.
I think me and Josh were having a conversation at the gym the other day. Like, I think the younger generation now, because of social media, they're like, I think they're messed up. I think it's like warped their minds. You know, a lot of them, I'm not saying this for all youngsters, because I'm sure it's not the case, but some of them are just living in a bubble.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it has gave them a false perception of how easy it is to get things, become certain type of looking people like ourselves. I mean, we know as coaches how long it's took us to get our physiques to where they are. We got guys coming to us just starting out, wanting to be pro in like a year or two. I'm thinking, this is 10 years work, son.
Aye.
Yeah.
And most
you feel like
there's media.
Yeah, I know. For me, like, it's, I think I had to take there was a part, I think It probably was about just before New Year. And I don't know, I haven't put anything up on social media. I don't know if you watched one of the previous episodes, but my skin got really bad in November last year. And Greg knows, like, that got to me big time. And I'm talking like, I've had clear skin all through my bodybuilding career, and up until now, it's just gone haywire. And there was a part of me where I sat back and I was like, I actually said to my girlfriend, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing the drug side anymore. I'm just gonna step back because I don't want to. I can't deal with this. And it struck me how quickly I came to that decision just in my head. Obviously, I didn't officially make that decision, but that was one of the first things in my head. It was like, back off right now, get everything back in check, and just kind of sort out this issue that's obviously affecting you mentally. Yeah. And I think for a lot of guys and girls is that they're just letting it carry on and carry on and carry on, and before you know it, it's just like it's such a massive mental cloud that's over them that it could lead to like some sort of implosion. And so I think us three were all very switched on, and we would know when, right, this is time to kind of say, let's just take a step back from these things. But like you said, people are just wanting this filtered, constantly praised life, and they'll just literally sink themselves into the ground just to try and achieve that. And also, I don't want to sound too negative, because this sport is an incredible sport. It's done incredible things to all three of our lives. And I'm sitting in this flat, but because I was able to afford it because of bodybuilding and the PT, the coaching, and everything that's come along with that. So I'm entirely grateful for sport. It's an amazing sport to get involved with. But I think that there obviously is an aspect when this is taken to the extreme where it can backfire. And I think the mental fortitude that's needed to say, I need to step back and reassess things, I think a lot of people are missing.
Yeah.
So
I think people quickly realise as well that once you go down that rabbit hole of ticking all the boxes, it can become very expensive. So that's what I was kind of getting at as well, is if you're not earning a living from this, and there's a lot of bodybuilders earning a living from social media and creating their own brands, I think that's time when you need to look at, where's this going? I need a plan. If it's not going anywhere, okay, we need to really rein things in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so just touching on it, I think like when you ask like maybe the generation or on the way up what they want to do in their old and it's like YouTuber or something like along those lines, I think they're going to make a killing in money. They're just going to be one of these guys that watch on YouTube all the time, but it's like 1 in a million chance of actually being that good at doing it. It's like that's just kind of the aspirations of the youth these days that we want to be. It's the same with bodybuilding. They see the guys on YouTube or whatever, and they're doing amazing for themselves and they look great and they've got loads of fans, they've got millions of followers. And I think I could easily get that if I go and work a little bit hard in the gym. It's like the chance of you doing that is very, very slim to none.
Yeah, or just buy your followers. Just buy your followers, and then you got 100,000 followers, but you get 60 likes.
Yeah, spotted a fucking mile off.
Funny of them.
Not cool.
Next question I had, what is the most memorable moment you've had in your journey of bodybuilding? It could be like a win, it could be just a special moment, or like just a very emotional moment you've had. Is there a moment you can really remember that is probably the best moment you've had in bodybuilding?
I think there's probably two. Obviously winning my pro cards. I don't think I'll ever forget that.
You think it was as good as you thought it'd be, or was it better? The feeling of when you realised like you just won.
I don't know, because I'm sure you both had moments where when it happened, it didn't really feel like it happened.
Yeah.
You didn't have time to sink in at the time. So it would just all happen so fast. I mean, obviously, you're married, Greg. You know how quickly that day goes. And you think, how did it go so fast? What happened? Similar to that. But in time, when it's settled in, it's a fantastic memory. And obviously, I'll never forget it. And there was a time in 2015 when I competed at the British finals and won. I remember the gym I was at before I kind of left that gym, because I fell out with the people there, they said, you basically haven't got a fucking chance in hell of being a super heavyweight bodybuilder, and you'll do shit in the finals, even if you get there. And they were sat front row centre, and I was like, in that front row, like, thinking, yeah, you fucking look, you watch. That was quality. And then when I went to the Europa Pro in Spain and did my pro debut, just being there and having my mum and Katie be there to watch, that was amazing as well.
Yeah, you can imagine.
You got another one, Greg? I think I've rattled through my questions then.
I think the last one was someone we just touched on. It was, what is, in your opinion, what do you feel is the problem with the industry at the moment, and where do you think people are going wrong? As in, like, the kind of people that are getting into it, do you feel they're doing too much, not working hard enough? They think things are coming easy. What do you think is the problem nowadays?
I think, and I imagine you'll probably agree, I think there's a massive reliance on drugs. People rely on drugs to kind of do the work for them. Where, I mean, I don't personally know your two's backgrounds, but I trained from 16 and I started taking stuff when I was 23. So I had a good foundation of training, albeit not the best training or the best nutrition, but I was learning along the way. So by the time I started taking stuff, I had a good foundation of basic knowledge of everything. Obviously, this kind of stuff is very freely accessible these days, more so than it was when I was starting bodybuilding. And the information is so much more freely accessible as well. I remember when I was competing first, there was no coaches. I was looking on Google, trawling through Google, trying to find a diet for a show. And I remember finding, and I know this guy quite well now, we're friends, but I remember finding Neil Cranwell's Mr. Olympia diet or Mr. Universe diet. So I looked at that that was like one of the diets I did on my first competition. And nowadays, there's so much information out there. You obviously got JP's site, or you've got 1,000 coaches to choose from. Google's obviously got a lot more information now. It had YouTube. But yeah, I think there's a massive reliance on drugs. I think there's a huge miscommunication in actual hard work and consistency, and that is with eating and training. I owned a gym obviously for 3 years. It's private now. I've closed it down to use for myself, my own preps, just for, well, my own progress really, because I trained there in lockdown by myself, and I was like, this is quite good.
don't need
everybody's team, is it? Everybody's teams have their own private gym.
Exactly. So that's the situation with that. But in that time, I must have seen thousands of members train, and I can count the times I saw people training hard, intensely, and thinking, "Fucking yeah, you look like you're training well." On my hands, one hand.
Yeah.
They're just not people like us who understand intensity, and I don't know. Are you born with it? What do you think? Is it something that you can learn, or is it something you just got?
We spoke about this last week.
Last week's one,
it's something that's just in you. Like, I'll guarantee you, there's not one person you've like watched and thought, "Fucking hell, they go balls to the wall," and they're not good. They're probably like obviously your level, James. Any people who lift heavy and hard, like they're all up there. They're all got that physique that is like just different. And I think it's just something that's in you. Like, you have to have something. I wouldn't want to say like a fucking switch not wired up, but there's just something you need to go to like a level that people can't even think of. You just need to go there to get to the results.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think my background's, I played rugby all my life before bodybuilding. And like I was saying to Greg last week, is that like you can't expect to have a guy who's 6'5", 20 stone running towards you, and then you can't have that switch to kind of, take him down basically. Like if you go into a tackle like that, you're gonna get wiped out. He's gonna snap you in half. So I think from a very early age, I was very fortunate to be around the right coaches, the right players who kind of instilled that kind of aggression in sport. And obviously, rugby is one of the best sports to be aggressive, and it transferred very quickly over into bodybuilding. But I think that switch, I described it last week as controlled violence. That's what I said. That's how I feel when I do my big lifts. Like I feel violent, and I do think that is a personality trait. I think people can hone their skills and they can hone their technique and the way they approach things. I mean, a massive part of powerlifting is mindset and approaching the bar and getting yourself ready for the numbers. But I think that switch is only in certain people to take their body that far, and I think that is the difference. At the very, if we're talking about the minutiae detail, that is the big difference between the guys who have great physiques and the guys who are monsters, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I've always been competitive as well. You guys competitive or whatever you do.
You have to be
everything.
Yeah, you have to
You've got to be able to compete with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what bodybuilding is. It's very like on your own sport. Like no one else can do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being beaten kills me inside. Absolutely kills me inside. So yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's definitely. I think it's a big personality trait, that kind of being able to apply yourself to that level and take your body to just that mad place. But like you said, I totally agree with the being able to count on one hand guys that train hard. I mean, back in the day before me and Greg knew each other, I would look over across the gym and like Greg would be training hard, and I was like, fucking, he trains hard. And honestly, there's only a handful of times I've looked across the gyms and been like, fuck, that's some hard work going on over there. And it is a big part that's missing, a massive part. But then how do we, because there's so much information out there, how do we instill that into people? You know what I mean? That's the hard part. I mean,
you really can't teach somebody to go to that place. Like if they can't think of that place, they're not going to go there. Like you've like obviously you've probably PT'd people as well, Jamie, or just put somebody like through a set, and when they say like they're done, and you're like, fuck me, you've got at least 5 there, or you're nowhere near done. Like try to tell them that, like, no way. So it's like something that's just not built in them to that level of pain. Like when that pain comes in, it's like that's fucking go time. They're like, no, I'm done. That's like that's me just touching the pain. I'm done. It's like, no, this is fucking go time, go. And it's like they just can't do it.
Did you have a mentor coming up?
The first gym I ever trained at was an old school bodybuilding gym. So that was a great environment to start. My uncle was a bodybuilder, competed in like the mid-90s. So when I was younger, that's what I was kind of brought up around. So that was an initial bit of exposure to bodybuilding. And then, like I said, the gym that he trained at, I joined. And then the guy that owned that gym was the typical old school gym, man behind the counter, was there every day. And that's where I did my first set of contests, because we did an in-house little show there for the 2009, 10 and 11. And then it stopped after that. But yeah, I guess he was a bit of a mentor. If I had a copy of the diet he gave me, it would make you laugh. I can't remember what it was word for word, but one of the meals was like a tin of tuna and a new potato, one new potato.
Any size.
It was like once a week you got a Muller Light yogurt as a treat. Crazy shit. Yeah, there was definitely things that just kind of got my interest and kept me pushing for more, for sure.
Because I've talked about the importance of it is hard nowadays, because like you said earlier, like we've got thousands of influencers, thousands of coaches, and I think in an age where it probably seems on the surface like you've got so much information and just so much variety of people to work with, I think people are kind of, they're a bit, what's the word, overwhelmed by just the amount of choice they have. And I was fortunate enough that my 2 mentors coming up, I met very organically, and you know, they took time out of their day, didn't charge me, just to kind of give me that advice. And I just wish that, you know, that could be the case for everyone. And but it's you know, you can't exactly. I feel you can't walk about and just find mentors. You have to kind of just be in an environment and just see who comes into your life and just see how organically people come in. And you know, like obviously I met Greg in the gym and later became his best man. And you know, I've had other training partners who, you know, I wasn't actively seeking to get a training partner, but we jumped in for a set, and then like we ended up being best mates in that. So I think you know, it's I feel that I wish I could give people coming into the sport now and people coming to fitness, just give them that kind of that mentor kind of personality that I was very fortunate enough to kind of go up with. So yeah,
it's definitely hard. Like I say, I think people are spoiled for choice these days, and
yeah,
a lot of the people that do coach and do give advice, they ain't got any credentials. They've got no experience themselves. They might have done one show, but that's down to the individual to follow someone and really tap into what they do know and connect with them before they even think about obviously making that jump and perhaps contact one-to-one.
It was actually spoken about on Bodybuilding Bollocks. I think it was last week. I think I can't remember who it was that said it, but I feel the same. Like, I think there's obviously so many coaches out there. You are spoiled for choice, and like they've all got like the transformations on the page that all look great, and you quite easily go there and they probably get the results. But for me, I really feel you have to respect the coach. Not just think they're good, but you have to like have I do not want to let them down. I really want to do well for them, and they have to have like a kind of an aura about them that you really look up to and appreciate. And like, obviously, probably for yourselves, well, Jordan's probably the best at what he does, and he's created something amazing. He's probably put British bodybuilding on the map. In that sense of like what he's built on himself is like you've got to have massive respect for the man of what he's done. So like that to me, like kind of when me and like I actually just mailed him one day, and he actually gave me like a good couple hours of his time just chatting back and forth about stuff. Didn't like take anything away from that. It was just like he gave me his time, and that to me was a massive thing. Whereas you can mail a coach and you might not even get a response back for a couple of days. It's like just things like that. You have to have a massive respect for who you want to work with, so you can actually do well for them.
Definitely. Yeah. You know, respect's like the foundation of your adherence, isn't it? If you don't respect someone, you listen to what they say. Oh, a few extra grams here and there won't hurt.
I know, and that's
not gear.
And that's why, like, I'm sure, like, I know Greg's the same, but like, when you have that client who checks in and they've been like, oh, I've done this, I've done that, you're like, that hurts me, mate. That actually hurts me. I don't know if I'm the only one that takes it this personally, but it's I'm trying to wean myself off that, but it does hit you personally when your client says, oh yeah, I just added, you know, I felt hungry, so I added an extra 30 grams of this and 40 grams of that, and I'm like, mate, that hurts my soul. Like, you've got to realize that I'm trying to fucking help you, mate. And yeah, it is.
I don't know whether you guys have noticed as well, but I find this with a lot of my longer term clients, like someone who's been with me for maybe a year or two, and we've had a great initial response, and then things have gone very stale. Really struggling to make any progress, and it's because on their part the respect's probably gone. We may have crossed the boundaries in terms of they might see me as a bit more of a friend than a coach. They just ain't fucking adhering to a plan. That's why I'm not getting results. There's no other. We got good results in the first place, so what changed?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the respect part is massive.
Yeah, 100%.
I was going to dip into one of the questions we got in the Q&A because I thought it was quite a good topic to discuss, because it's something I actually would love to see myself. But on all physical sports, there should be a steroid division and a natural division, and just like level out the playing field so everybody can see like what's happened if you go in gear or not. Yeah. I think for me, like, to see a steroid division in a lot of sports would be fucking phenomenal.
Oh,
like, it's insane to watch.
Imagine like American football, full on cycles.
There would just be like bodies everywhere. There'd be like legs and arms missing. It'd be nuts.
It was like wrestling when we was kids and UFC. It was so much better when they was on gear.
Oh yeah,
just seeing the physiques go at each other was just more impressive.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the super heavyweight UFC that you can take gear, or they're not tested.
What now?
I'm pretty sure there's like a super heavyweight. It's not like what I don't want to fucking say, I really don't know, but someone like Brock Lesnar or something like that. I'm pretty sure like they can take gear. Like the super heavyweight UFCs don't get tested, or there's a division that don't get tested.
Yeah.
They're like 260 pounds, 270 pounds, like beating fuck each other.
Wow.
Pretty sure.
There's probably some like bare knuckle warriors type thing where like it's only shown on fucking the darkest fucking inches of the web, and they're allowed to take anything they want.
Big boys.
Aye.
Fucking big boys.
I think
watching CrossFit would be phenomenal, watching these guys on gear. Like what they do, and actually, Jesus Christ. I'd be nuts watching what they could do on gear.
Yeah, naturally. that's the thing though, isn't it? Legit, we know a lot of athletes take gear. In most sports, you know, if you don't think footballers are taking growth hormone to try and increase their recovery, you're daft. In all professional sports,
Olympics.
everyone is prepared to do whatever they can to be the best.
Yeah.
So to open up that playing field and make it level and just say, right, guys, anything goes.
Go for it.
Would be amazing.
Yeah. Take all the trend you want. It'll be awesome.
I think the top 10 guys, 100-meter sprinters in the world, they'll be the same guys, and that's what the general public fail to realize, is that it'll be the same people at the top. Like if we look at last year's Olympia, it's still Ramy winning the Olympia. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's hard. That's one of the struggles I found growing up, was trying to, because you spoke about earlier about how you kind of moved mates out of your life and things like that. I'm sure because they didn't understand the whole sport, and I'm in a similar situation with myself. You know, it is one of those things where it's very hard to convey what we do without having done it themselves. Yeah. And I think I would love to see kind of a world where it's just that arrogance / ignorance isn't there with obviously with the stuff that we do. So speaking of Olympia and stuff, what shows are you planning this year?
So the first one I'm planning to do is Portugal, which is just under, it's 15 weeks out, like this weekend. Fingers crossed, you know, the family can travel. I'm quite sure I'll be able to get there. Just waiting on hearing about like what's happening with this fucking vaccine. Do you need it? Do you not? Do you don't? Whatever. So we'll see. But that's the first one, Portugal. And then after that, I think Spain is like 3-4 weeks after. But it's the one in Benidorm, the big man weekend, not the Europa. It's like later on in November. So I plan on doing that. And then in September, August, there's Vancouver and Tampa. So they're all events that qualification points towards this year's Olympia. Because I think this year's Olympia is going to be in October.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Arnold Classic is in October. I think it's the week before the Olympia. Which is
the weekend before.
Yeah. But, you know, if I qualified for the Olympia, I think I'd still do it because I wouldn't want to miss out. And if I qualify for the Olympia, my view towards this year's Olympia is I'm going there to experience it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I got no aspirations to place anywhere. You know, if I come dead last, I'd be fucking happy just to be there. So I ain't thinking, I don't want to do that show the week before because I'm going to ruin my chances of coming last. I'm just going there to enjoy it. But I do honestly think that I have a good chance of qualifying this year on points. Again, I'm not one of these that is going to only go to the Olympia on a show win. I don't understand that mentality. Like, if you got the opportunity to go, fucking go.
100%.
Said it many times on his podcast, hasn't he, that he wished he would have gone more because he'll never get the chance to go again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
And then the show will come, you know, as we progress as bodybuilders, as athletes, they'll come. We'll go from the top 10 to the top 6 to top 3 to show wins. I'm quite confident that what I want to do after this year, I had a nice off season, not a short one because I competed late, put on some more muscle, and then next year I think I'll be the physique I need to get like show wins wrapped up.
Yeah. No, that's solid. That's, do you think there's like guys are competing too much or too little, or what's your kind of opinion on where people sit with that? Because granted, obviously on an amateur level, but I'd done 6 shows in 2019, and that was as of the 6th show of the Mr. Universe, that was a big detriment to my physique. Like I looked horrendous, I thought. But how do you feel your physique kind of? Because I remember when you were trying to get your pro card, 18. How many shows did you do that year?
4. So
that's a fair run, yeah.
September, it was March to September. I was like contest shape, and I definitely knew by September that this needs to be the one because I'm starting to.
Yeah, definitely.
But since then, I think I've learned that if you're going to compete multiple times in one year, you need to be mindful that your body needs rest. So I did it after the Spain show last year, and I'll do it after every single show if possible. If I have at least a 3-week gap till the next show, I have a whole week off.
Right, okay.
Complete week off training. Probably trickle some testing, nothing else. And probably have a cheat meal every day, but nice stable diet. Just maybe a cheeky cheat meal every day, or at least 5 days out of 7. Then back on the diet. You're not going to ruin your physique. You're just going to give that mental and physical cogs chance to rewind a little bit and give yourself a fighting chance of repeating the same, if not better, look as before.
Yeah.
I think too many people, you know yourself, Andy, once you're in that bubble of, I've got to be better for the next show, I've got to push, that's why your physique gets tired, because you just can't handle it.
I was just the way to say that. After the PCA British, Nick turned around and he was like, right, what, like, I want you to kind of push back up to 600 gram of carbs a day. And I was like, nah, no chance. I'm going down to 150 and I'm doing 2 hours of cardio every day. Like, absolute hindsight's always 20/20. Yeah. But because I think that's why 2019 was a bit far more successful year, because I did, like you said, I took a day off, maybe not a week, but I took a day off after the show. I chilled out, ate everything in sight, didn't train, and then kept my food super high for the first week, and then maybe brought it down over like the weekend to kind of tighten up a wee bit a week out from the show. And that was a huge part. And Greg and I have discussed obviously rest a lot, because it was a factor that we both kind of didn't really consider that much a little bit years gone past. But it applies obviously, like you said, like show to show. And you know, if you have to be, like you say, you have to be mindful of just how depleted your body actually is. And so
I don't know what your guys' mentality is in the last few weeks of prep, but I think I have a different mentality to most. And this is only obviously the past year or so. It's never been like this before. I've always been the guy that wants to push more. My mentality towards the last maybe 3 weeks out from a show is I am now managing my physique to the stage. I'm not pushing it. I should be ready. I'm now managing physically and mentally that best physique that I'm molding to get into that show. And you will find 9 times out of 10 that's a fresher physique rather than a burnt out, tired one who's pushed it all the way. I don't understand the people who are trying to still break records in the gym at that stage as well. I'm just scared of getting injured by that point. I'm really not probably tackling 70% of my working loads, maybe 80%.
Oh, really?
Definitely not anything near full working balls to the wall capacity.
It's so easy to speak about it, like obviously now, but you see when like you're there and you're weeks out and you're like, fuck, I want to win this, I want to look my best, you're like, I could just do it a little bit more, or I could just cut my food a little bit. Like you really, that's just where your mind is. You just want more and more and more. But now you look at it, you're like, oh, that's so stupid. But it's just easy to look at it back and just think these things.
I was coaching you and I was telling you, you need to pull back. You're like, no, I'm not doing that. Or, you know, like, no, Andy, we need to half my food today. I was like, no, you fucking don't. You don't. But yeah, it was it's exactly that. You just get into that kind of just, I need to go full throttle. And it's, we were saying last week that it's bodybuilding's just so counterintuitive sometimes. It's the complete opposite that does the work. And I think a lot of people find that out the hard way, for sure. So yeah, definitely.
One last thing I really want to touch on, obviously, like we spoke about previously in weeks past, is the thing that people really don't realise in the sport is to be where, obviously, where we are or where we're going, the progress we need to make is the amount of food we need to put away on a daily basis, not just like every so often, but like daily, consistently, week after week, month after month, year after year, to get the results and like put that food to use. Obviously, you being a bigger guy, give the viewers a little bit of an instance, like how much you really have to eat in a day to be where you are and progress.
So I remember the first time I worked with Jordan, we had my maintenance food at 8,000 calories, where I just wasn't putting any weight on and body wasn't changing. I was like, man, this is ridiculous. But luckily, I don't know, I think I was very active at the time, not as active in recent years because, you know, obviously I've had the luxury of coaching and sitting back a bit more, resting between training and whatnot. My calories are still upwards of like 6,500, 7,000 a day, every day. Like you said, it's the consistent day after day, month after month that we have to do that people don't get. People say, oh, I can eat that. Yeah, probably for a day or two, but you try to put it in for fucking weeks, mate. You ain't got a chance.
I generally go to bed at night like, yes, finish my food, and then it's like, fuck, I'll wake up and do it again. That's literally like what it's like.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about obviously what Jordan's doing earlier, and man, I'm so envious. I really am, because I can't wait till the day. Obviously, I really enjoy what I do. I'm not taking anything away from that, but I still will not lie that I can't wait till the day that I can pull back the drugs, pull back the food, drop the body weight, train 3 times a week, be able to jog again, fucking jump.
That's good dynamite. Yeah, we've had that discussion as well. Is like that. So we're not your level, but fucking hell, like just to be 40 pound, 30 pound lighter, and just be able to, like, you know, like I said earlier, I struggle to get up the stairs in my flat. It's horrendous. It's really bad. And the other night, like I was lying on my back, and I woke myself up from basically suffocating on my own body weight. And I was like, it's getting bad now. It's getting bad. But I don't want to resort to the CPAP machine, but it's one of those things that like I'm starting now to consider. So do you use one of them yourself?
No, I haven't got one. I've looked into it. Do you know if there is easier to fucking get your hands on? Because I've looked into it and I'm sure you have to like get a doctor's letter or something. If anybody knows if I can just buy one from somewhere, I will have one.
But you've got to do a test. I'm pretty sure you've got to do a test.
Yeah.
They give you something one night and you put it over and it like shows you like how long you stop breathing for. I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah. A minute at a time.
I know people who have them who might not even need them, but they've said that their sleep quality has improved so much, and that's then mapped over to their recovery and training performance. I think they're definitely a good tool to utilise if you can.
Yeah, I heard that as well. See, with going back to your meals and that, do you have that? Like Greg's talking about that just now, is like that pre-meal anxiety. Like, you know, you're coming up to like 10 minutes before the meal, you're like, oh fuck, here it comes again. Like, I think that's such a thing. Like, people will never experience that. It's such an odd like emotion to have towards food.
I've had it a lot in the past. Luckily, I think I just have a better relationship and understanding of foods and what I need to eat now, that I've kind of overcome the anxiety. But in the past, when I was like trying to build up and really push the food, when, you know, meals are taking you 45 minutes and you're just staring at it, pushing it around your plate.
No.
We've all been there. But I think the key for me this year has been to enjoy the meals. And that might be as simple as changing the rice to pasta. I've never eaten pasta, because you never see it as good as rice, do you? Like, all people would say, don't eat pasta, it's not as good as rice. So I've always had jasmine rice. But my meals have been, for the past year, gluten-free pasta with turkey and the low-fat dolmio sauce, 200 mils milligrams of that, or milligrams, grams, whatever. And then Jordan's got everyone on the fucking sunflower seeds at the minute, hasn't he?
Oh man, fuck!
There we go, fucking sunflower seeds. That's it.
So
Oh man,
that together, and because it's moist, it just goes down. Piece of
yeah.
Yeah, Greg sent me a photo of his meal with the sunflower. I thought, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's brutal, man. No way.
I was really hoping they were going to get dropped a bit in prep. I just don't see it happen.
They
Go
do.
through bags of shit daily.
They do drop a bit, mate. You're lucky.
Oh.
I still managed to cling on to a bit of peanut butter, to be fair, but this is the end of the podcast. Nobody tell Jordan.
Do you know what I started to do? I actually started to, because obviously I have fruit with every meal. I put a little bit of water in my fruit in a blender with the seeds, blend that up, and I'll drink it. And like the seeds are like still a bitty, like they're not really torn up, so you have to chew them a little bit. And that's what Jordan says, like remember and chew the seeds.
Yeah.
I'm chewing them, fucking they're in the drink, but I'm fine. Fucking that little smoothie on the go. It's actually not bad.
God, man, no chance.
I hope it's a fad. I hope he gets over this seeds thing and changes it to something nice. We'll see.
I couldn't do the seeds on their own. They just tasted like burnt fucking wood or something. It was horrendous. I had them in a meal, but it wasn't even any better.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, you boys can keep the seeds. I think we'll wrap up there. I don't want to keep you for too long because I can see a clock in the background. I'm like just wary of like it not going too far past. But like I said at the start of the podcast, mate, we appreciate you coming on and you know, giving the voice and opinion of someone who's at that pivotal level and at that kind of point in their career in bodybuilding. It's we really appreciate you coming on.
Very honoured to have you on, so thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, guys. As I said earlier, I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the IFBB circle very soon. So
fingers crossed. Wait and see. We'll wait and see. I need to beat Greg first to get into that topic. So. Right. Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place. Cheers, guys.